Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this public hearing of Pittsburgh City Council for today, May 25th, 2022. This is in relation to Bill 1906, and as is our tradition, we will begin with the clerk reading the purpose of the bill. Madam Clerk.
Bill 1906, an ordinance amending the Pittsburgh Code, Title 9, Zoning Code, Article 2, Base Zoning Districts, Article 5, Use Regulations, Chapter 911, Primary Uses, Section 911.02, Use Table, and Section 911.04, Use Standards, Article 6, Development Standards, Chapter 915, Chapter 915.04, Environmental Performance Standard, and Chapter 919, Signs, and Chapter 922, Development Review Procedures, 922.15, to create a new urban center mixed-use zoning districts and related zoning regulations.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. My name is Councilman Kraus. I'll be chairing this afternoon's public hearing. We may be joined periodically by other members. We are in somewhat of a limited capacity due to some issues that we have around our IMP department, but we're working through that with our planning department, and I'm very grateful to everyone that works so diligently to help us be able to broadcast this today via Zoom. We are going to open the public hearing by having a brief history of the bill that will be presented by Deputy Director Andrew Dash of Department of Planning. So Andrew, welcome.
Thank you, Councilman. And I'm joined by Corey Lehman and Kate Rigas from our zoning division here in City Planning. And so, Council Bill 2021-1906 was introduced by the Mayor of City Council on September 21st of 2021. It was amended and referred to Planning Commission on October 13th of 2021 for the Commission's report and recommendation. There were a couple of extensions to that. It was brought to the Commission for hearing and action on March 22nd of 2022. At that time, they made a positive recommendation on this bill with a series of conditions. And so I'll outline these conditions, but just note that these are summarized due to the length. Between Corey, Kate, and I, we can answer any questions on specifics if there are any. The list of conditions, that have been made to the legislation already in what has come to City Council and been addressed include that the legislation be amended to the version that was posted to the City Planning Notices website, which is the Urban Center Mixed Use UCMU District, with the following additional amendments. That in the building height section, that it be amended to add step back provisions to the code. That section 90408 C4 regarding the performance points be edited to allow for transfer within a master development plan, consistent with the way that we've addressed this in other areas of our code. The section regarding build to zones be edited to note that a build to zone is imposed on all street frontages except for where the applicant can document that the frontage requirements cannot be met due to green buffer or urban open space requirements. That the section regarding parking would be amended to allow for surface parking of up to 10 spaces only for multi-unit residential uses that have at least 5 dwelling units. That the section related to building length be edited to limit building length to 400 feet. The section related to fences and walls be edited to remove language that was in the bill regarding walls built into landscapes and retaining walls. That the sections related to performance points, the on-site energy consumption, new and existing buildings, and the related definitions be amended to duplicate the proposed draft publicly available for the new base zoning districts as a part of the Oakland plan. And that permitted uses be amended to remove college or university campus completely as a permitted use in the UCMU. Again, all of these conditions that I've stated are incorporated into the current version of the legislation that is on the City Council website. So all of those Planning Commission, recommendations have been, achieved. The other condition from the positive recommendation is that City Council gives further review and consideration to the height buffers and height recommendations adjacent to existing residential districts. And then, there's one additional amendment that, to the to section 904.08C5, the performance points, that does need to be amended to include that each point equates to 15 feet of additional building height. Relative to this amendment specifically, city planning did, staff did mail and post notice of this hearing, at least 21 days in advance, as is required by the zoning code.
So, Deputy Director Dash, just one thing I want to make certain is part of the public record. The conditions that were outlined by the Planning Commission to be amended to receive their positive recommendation have been adjusted in the legislation, and that is the legislation that we are considering now, correct?
I'll ask Kate or Corey if there's, I believe so. I'll ask Kate and Corey if there's any clarifications that need to be made.
Okay.
Yeah, currently on Legistar, it shows version 3, which is the correct version that has those amendments added.
Yep. Thank you, Kate. Appreciate. Corey, our zoning administrator, so anything you wish to offer?
I do not at this time.
Thanks, Corey. Appreciate it. I would like to recognize that we are joined by our council president, Teresa Kale-Smith, our finance chair, Daniel Lavelle, and slowly making his way into the room, Councilman Wilson. Councilman, welcome. So with that, we are going to proceed to our registered public speakers. I am going to go slightly out of order, which is my purview as chair. I would like to make certain that Millie Sass, Elena Zaitzoff, and Mark Olynyk are able to present in unison. So Millie was first, Elena was second, Mark was 9. I am going to move Mark up to be able to coordinate their testimony collectively, and then we will go through the remainder of the list. So Elena can start as you wish to do so. If you would like, what I'm going to ask, please, for everyone, whether you're on Zoom or here, that you begin by giving your name, the neighborhood in which you reside for our public record. The green light will indicate the start of your 3 minutes. When the yellow light comes on, you will have 1 minute to summarize your thoughts. When the red light comes on, the microphone actually shuts off. So, Elena, welcome. Thank you for being here, and you have the mic. Yep.
My name is Elena Zaitzoff. I've lived in the Oak Cliff neighborhood of South Oakland for 42 years. Leading up to today's hearing, I've been speaking to council as a private citizen, but I am here today representing the Oak Cliff Community Organization, OCO, of which I am vice president. OCO is a registered community organization and has submitted a letter. I want to call your attention to the three-dimensional model we have brought with us today. It's in response to our ignored requests for better maps and the section drawings the Planning Commission requested for you to show the effect on residential areas, which never materialized. Millie Sass and I added the buildings this proposed zoning would allow. We both have degrees in math and know how to calculate scale. As the model shows, what Walnut Capital can build if this rezoning is passed is immensely out of scale with the adjacent residential areas. Shown in white, step backs along streets and the height reduction zone next to houses are grossly inadequate. The height reduction zone is to replace residential compatibility, but allows only a fraction of its protection. We are asking for the same residential compatibility as in OPRD. Speaking of OPRD, what the developer has suggested, more density, a grocery store, better pedestrian experience, can be done with the current OPRD, except not to this extreme dimensions Walnut Capital wants. 120 and 185-foot heights are too high. OCO would like to see the 185-foot part of Isley's and Panera sites reduced to 120 feet and all of Halkett Street at 85 feet since the Coltart houses are adjacent. The length of 400 feet needs to be reduced so buildings don't take up entire blocks. There is no context for these mammoth buildings. McGee Hospital, Isley's, Duquesne Light Substation, and the Panera site are at most 5 stories high, while 185 feet is at least 12 stories. The boundaries need to be adjusted. Parcels currently zoned as residential should not be changed to urban center mixed use. This includes 20 houses on Halkett Street. A piece of Zulema Park is included in the map for this rezoning. It's been questioned many times, but never with reply that it is an error. All of Zulema Park needs to be rezoned. To touch briefly on the process this ordinance has taken, it's our position that substantive changes have been made from what previous Mayor Peduto originally gave to City Council, and that should have started the process over. We are asking that this be tabled until hybrid town hall meetings are held. Thank you.
Before I call the next speaker, I would just ask members at the end of the public hearing, if you take a moment to check the model that they did bring. There was a lot of time and effort and energy that they put into it, and I think they would greatly appreciate your taking a moment to view it.
Walk up and check it out, or?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Did I miss a presentation where they?
I think Millie and Mark will continue on, but just, for your own edification, to, when you can, take a look. A lot of effort and energy went into it. Millie, thank you very much. She is our next speaker. She will be followed by Mark Olynyk and then be followed by Phil Amaris. But Millie, you may have the microphone.
My name is Millie Sass. I've been a resident of Oak Cliff for more than 40 years. Thank you for permitting me to speak in opposition of Ordinance 2021-1906, and please send this legislation back to the starting gate. I know that I have the opportunity to vote for only one of you, but I know you are people who care about living in Pittsburgh, and that includes Pittsburgh. Please do what you know needs to be done. Do not pass this legislation. Please examine our 3D model of the UCMU area that 2021-1906 relates to. Note the extreme heights, length, and overall size of the buildings. Note how small people are next to the structures. These will be huge since these will be used since development experience has proven that developers build to what is permitted. Among among other items, you need to consider these that will change the nature of my neighborhood. 1, the 0-foot build-to line. Why is that necessary? It forces building right up next to the sidewalk. 2, the lighting features on page 169 of the legislation. Read it closely and understand how it will affect neighbors and highways. 3, parking legislation is extremely nebulous. States that approving body shall do the determining of any changes requested with no community input that I understand. And spaces are only required for 50% of the minimum. Why? This forces vehicles into neighborhoods. Furthermore, if a developer cannot meet parking requirements, they can contribute to some mobility improvement trust. Does one exist? A nebulous contribution does not make up for abiding to parking regulations. I believe that firearm businesses are still permitted, that they should firmly be deleted, especially today. Besides the height of the building itself, developers are free to put gardens, elevator equipment, ventilation equipment, solar panels, antennas, and other items on the roof. Those extra items must be included in the calculation of the maximum heights shown here. Inclusionary zoning legislation is hopeful, but will be in courts for years. The city should not depend upon that legislation to guarantee that Walnut Capital includes any affordable housing. And the in lieu of phrases, I see that wording a lot in 1906. It gives developers a way to escape from what they should do, but buy their way out so they can do only what they want to do, and it needs to be eliminated. 8, residential compatibility. It's 916.02. Page 170 states that it no longer applies. This eliminates protections that my community had with OPRD, and OPRD allows for most of what 1906 is anyway. We don't need 1906 to see development in Oakland. 9, even details like building material and look need to be examined closely. I see articulation, frankly, as a silly, soon-to-be passé architectural attempt at tricking the eye. The articulation in 1906 is minimal anyway, and probably just makes it easier or cheaper for developers to build. It does nothing to add to the classic architecture of Oakland. And I don't see anything about glaring building lights, do you? That's all I have to say today. I'm sure you've read my previous letters. Thank you very much, but please stop 2021-1906.
Thank you, Millie. Appreciate your being here to testify today. Mark Olynyk, you're next. You'll be followed by Phil Amaris. And welcome, Mark. You have your 3 minutes at the mic. Thanks.
Hi, Mark Olynyk, went to Pitt, never left Oakland. We're once again addressing this plan that arguably has good intentions, but is bad legislation because the devil is always in the details. It was written by the developer with virtually unlimited access to city officials, but Oakland residents had very little access, in particular not being able to truly discuss things in depth. It's still very much the tail wagging the dog as far as the overall Oakland plan, nearly 2 years in the making, since that plan is still not completed, and in fact delayed again to review numerous comments that won't get the chance to influence this legislation. I want to state for the record that I am not opposed to some changes in zoning or new development, but I am opposed to vastly overreaching changes and massive development as illustrated in this diagram here. Massive development will be detrimental to the quality of life and even sense of place that has made Oakland so unique and attractive as a place to live that the Oakland public realm was created to protect, and part of which this legislation strips away. One recent issue makes this legislation seem even more faulty. As you well know, there's a lawsuit threatening the much anticipated inclusionary zoning, IZ, which is something of a linchpin for the noted good intentions of this legislation. If you think that IZ is safe because of other precedents, please recall the long and tortuous saga of the rental registry. It has been assumed that the IZ would at least guarantee some appreciable creation of affordable housing in all this new development, and the point system is touted as a way to encourage more. That point system is outrageously generous and allows for attaining maximum building heights without any additional affordable housing above any base requirements. This legislation and even the public benefits agreement leaves a loophole bigger than the Cathedral of Learning. From the PBA, as part of meeting the bonus point requirement for affordable housing, it would provide 10% of its residential units as affordable. This is only when housing points are used, not a guaranteed base of 10% affordable housing like the IZ. It has much easier income thresholds, and that is further contingent on the housing authority being able to fund enough vouchers, also not guaranteed. Another important issue is the 35-year expiration of that affordability. I ask that you recall Penn Plaza Apartments and other examples that show housing expirations only kick the problem down the road. For these issues so far, I ask that you reject or table this legislation to wait for the Oakland plan to be completed and or add some fail-safe provisions to modify points or otherwise mandate at least some affordable housing points if IZ is not implemented. Continuing with the soaring heights allowed, it is easily imaginable that some 50% of current South Oakland residents will no longer even be able to see the cathedral, just the ugly facades and new commercial signage. This destruction of sense of place is also countered the specific claim of this legislation to, quote, connect the communities in Oakland. It will do far more to further separate and isolate especially South Oakland residents. Light reduction zone is not a proper replacement for residential compatibility, and the few places it's still even proposed as being implemented. With no traffic studies and the Pitt institutional master plan, there's not going to be any reduction in 10 years. So agreeing to close Lima Street for a single traffic stream, getting a turning lane is irresponsible. A road divers Lima Street is more. I have other points, but I put
You've
that in
emailed
writing.
them, Mark,
Pardon
right?
me?
You've emailed them in, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Members have them. Thank you very much. Department of Planning, can you help me? I can't see the list of people that might be on Zoom right now. I'm sorry? Andrea. Okay. Do we have Phil Amaris on Zoom? We have who? Phil Amaris. Okay, I'll come back just in case. Andrea Vojkowicz is on Zoom, correct? Yes, correct. Hi, Andrea, welcome. You believe, oh, good, welcome. You have your 3 minutes, Andrea, thank you.
Thank you. My name is Andrea Vojkowicz, and I'm a resident of Central Oakland. I'm a native Central Oaklander, and I've been here a long time. I'm the Assistant Director at Oakland Planning Development Corporation, but today I am speaking on my own behalf as a resident and a homeowner in Oakland. And I have some prepared remarks, but first I want to say that I agree with virtually everything that Elena and Millie and Mark have said, and want to thank them for the effort that they went through to lay it all out. My remarks are that I want to acknowledge all the work that the mayor and his staff put into this bill this winter. They listened to community concerns. They centered equity and affordability in their conversations and negotiations with the bill's stakeholders. And I'd also like to acknowledge all the long hours that city planning staff put into working collaboratively with the mayor's office to bring the zoning proposal more into line with the outcomes of the open plan process. The resulting bill is better in some ways. Some of the most objectionable uses have been removed. The footprint is no longer completely insane, but the heights are still way out of scale with the street and the residential neighborhoods directly adjacent. And the publicly subsidized affordability agreement is some pretty weak tea. I'm also still waiting for anyone to offer a coherent planning rationale for why it is necessary and appropriate to rezone this particular block of Halkett. It's completely unnecessary. As we all explained to you back in October, the Oakland Plan and its accompanying zoning proposals are close on the heels of this bill, and there is no longer any reason at all to pass a boutique piece of legislation for the exclusive benefit of a single private developer. I urge you to set this bill aside until after the proposed zoning in the Oakland Plan has been reviewed and passed. Like I said, the mayor's office and city planning have worked to make this bill fit better with the Oakland Plan, and they've also incorporated this bill into the Oakland Plan itself. There's no longer any reason to set a bad precedent by passing this bill ahead of the Oakland Plan. It can only do damage to council's credibility and your neighborhood's integrity. Since it was first introduced this last fall, this bill has been a heartbreaking source of contention, a nightmare headache for everyone concerned, a distraction and a huge time suck for me and for my colleagues and for every neighborhood association in Oakland, not to mention for the Department of City Planning and the mayor's office. Such an incredible waste. Money spent lobbying for this bill has pitted neighbor against neighbor, and regardless of the outcome here, it has poisoned some decades-old relationships irreparably. Proponents of this bill have spent considerable resources advertising how undesirable it is to live in my neighborhood and how reasonable objections to the inappropriate scale proposed for this narrow residential street are just parochial backwater NIMBYism. They should be heartily ashamed of themselves. It's been unpleasant, in other words, and for what?
Andrea, thank you. Your 3 minutes expired, but you are, if you haven't already, welcome to email the remainder of your comments in. Thank you. Next, Georgia Petropoulos, who is the Chief Executive Officer for the Oakland Business Improvement District, is here. You're welcome, however you'd like to do it. But Georgia is experiencing a case of laryngitis and asked if I would please read her testimony into the record. Good afternoon, members of City Council. I am writing on behalf of the Oakland Business Improvement District in support of the proposed new Urban Center Mixed-Use UCMU zoning district. Oh, I'm so sorry. Forgive me. I'm going to begin. I had my microphone muted. Forgive me. Good afternoon, members of City Council. I am writing on behalf of the Oakland Business Improvement District in support of the proposed new Urban Center Mixed-Use UCMU zoning district. OBID's mission is to ensure Oakland's place as Pennsylvania's global center. Designated as a registered community organization, we recognize our role in evaluating development projects and participation in the neighborhood planning process. Throughout the past months, OBID has communicated this project process to over 5,000 diverse voices that represent our member stakeholders, our partners, and our greater Oakland community at large. We have a strong governing process, and I am pleased to report that OBID's support for this zoning text amendment has been fully ratified by our board of directors. Today is a great day for Pittsburgh as we seek to continue to forge a prosperous and thriving future for all of our constituents. And this future will depend on a prosperous and thriving Oakland. Oakland is long overdue for zoning that finally reflects our unique context as a local, national, and global serving downtown center of Pittsburgh. As we all know, starting decades ago, Pittsburgh successfully reinvented itself by creating new industries that dominated by Oakland's education and medical sectors, and this ambitious proposal will propel that successful transformation to the next needed level. This proposal will help us all build a Pittsburgh that is inclusive, that sustains livelihoods, which provides opportunities for current and for future generations, and that will expand equitable opportunities for all people who want to work, to live, to study, and to run a business in Oakland. My own personal story is a testament to Oakland's might. Oakland is where my immigrant parents owned their first home, where they started their family, where they supported this family. My father was a waiter at PAA for 43 years. As a Pitt student, I began my higher education path in Oakland, and now as an employee, my livelihood continues to be sustained in Oakland. I benefited tremendously from this prosperous community, and I am confident that many in this room today. My personal story is actually not that unique. This is a common Pittsburgh story. Oakland has changed the lives of millions of people, and it is up to us to make sure that this prosperity will continue to be shared by all today and into the future. We commend Mayor Gainey, Councilman Kraus, Walnut Capital, and their respective teams on this historic deal that will propel Oakland's vibrancy and demonstrate how communities can work together to advance neighborhood and regional priorities. Thanks to their leadership efforts, this revised proposal aligns with the vision of the Oakland plan while also responding to the immediate needs fitting of a regional job center. As you review this proposal, we ask that you please take into consideration the thousands of individuals throughout Pittsburgh and the millions from across the region and the world that will benefit from the continued strength of Oakland. Although each of you represent a different geographic section of Pittsburgh, many of your constituents' livelihoods will benefit from a continued growth and prosperity of Oakland. This is just a sampling of Oakland's geographic impact. Oakland is a community of 20,000 people. There are an estimated 48,625 jobs in Oakland, or 20% of Pittsburgh's overall job base. Approximately 28% of workers in Oakland live in the city of Pittsburgh. 63% of employees who work in Oakland live within a 10-mile radius of Oakland. And Oakland attracts local, national, and international audiences of over 1.7 million annual cultural visitors. In closing, we ask Pittsburgh City Council to approve this game-changing proposal, and we appreciate you providing the flexibility fitting to the Oakland context that I have just described. This zoning approval process is very fitting for Oakland, a zoning review process established as a norm for a local serving community is not enough to guide the real estate development needs for a critical employment center. We thank you for your support. Let us work together to reach these ambitious goals and towards the prosperous city for all. And those remarks again were provided by Georgia Petropoulos, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Oakland Business Improvement District. Thank
Where
you.
does she reside, does it say?
Forgive me, Oakland.
Do you reside in Oakland?
No. Not currently. I live in Swissville. Yeah. Okay. There's Georgia. Next, I have Mr. David DeLong, Senior Vice Chancellor for Business and Operations at the University of Pittsburgh. Is Mr. DeJong on Zoom?
I am here.
Hi, welcome. Welcome, David. You have your 3 minutes. Please begin.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm a resident of Oakland, and I'm also the Senior Vice Chancellor for Business and Operations at the University of Pittsburgh. I'm here today to offer Pitt's support for the proposed Urban Center Mixed-Use Zoning District. The university supports good public process. We applaud the city's planning staff, our Oakland neighbors, community groups, the business community, and developers for undertaking a thorough and inclusive public input process about this proposed rezoning. And the university supports the outcome of those deliberations, a thoughtful proposal that, through compromise, promotes a diverse and inclusive set of users for the area. This is a critical site. It's the gateway to a proud, historic, and vibrant Oakland neighborhood. It's also the primary entry point for Pennsylvania's third largest economic center, as well as Pittsburgh's innovation district. We believe this proposal enables a thriving community featuring a diversity of housing options, affordability, family-serving amenities, and other long-needed improvements. Importantly, we believe the proposal reflects extensive community input and is consistent with the community goals expressed within the draft Oakland plan. This proposal also enables the redevelopment of 3401 Boulevard of the Allies, also known as the Quality Inn site. By renovating the site, we can work together to address long-standing community priorities, a grocery store, and more resident housing. These priorities came up time and time again while we extensively engaged with Oakland residents while creating Pitt's institutional master plan. We focused on understanding how Pitt can help enhance the quality of life for our community and how we can help accomplish our shared community goals. The Quality Inn site will be a key driver for the future of Oakland and nearby neighborhoods. but we need to have greater density of year-round residents to sustain a full-service grocery store, which is where this proposed rezoning will act as a catalyst to drive the community's goals for their neighborhood. It will bring a diversity of housing types, expand housing affordability options, and attract a diversity of residents who will put down roots. And of course, we're excited about all the other benefits this rezoning will bring, from construction, retail, and service jobs to enhanced pedestrian safety. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, John. David, forgive me. Thank you, David. Appreciate your being here and offering your testimony today. Next, I have Todd Reborn. Is Todd on? He is on. Thank you. Todd, welcome. You have your 3 minutes.
I'm going to yield my time, Councilman.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it, Todd. Next, we have John Tagg. Is John on? Yes, thank you. Hi, John. Welcome. You may need to do *6 if you're on the phone to unmute yourself.
I'm unmuted now, I think.
There you go. You're good, John. Thank you. Welcome, and you have your 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, Councilman Kraus and fellow council members. My name is John Tagg. I live at 5836 Penn Avenue, apartment 405, Pittsburgh, 15206, East Liberty. Start out by saying I reside in a wheelchair accessible apartment. I am here representing myself as a person with a disability. I'm a member of the City of Pittsburgh Allegheny County Task Force on Disabilities, as well as a Board of Action Housing. So accessibility and affordability are important to me. I realize there are some folks that have concerns about the new urban center mixed-use district, as well as the project itself. I am not here to discuss those concerns. I'm here to talk about accessibility of Oakland Crossing, no matter what council decides on the UCUD. That being said, the ordinance should include affordability and accessibility. First, I'd like to address affordability. You can have 50 accessible apartments, but if a person with a disability can't afford to rent the accessible apartment, you will exclude many folks with disabilities. In Pennsylvania, the median income of a person with a disability is $21,104, with a median income of a person without a disability is $32,864. Individuals on SSDI monthly average is at $1,567, and a person on SSI is $841, and with an eligible spouse, it's $1,261. I was glad to see that Mayor Gainey paused the project. We now, I believe, have 40 housing choice voucher units. But what about the 40%, 50%, and 60% of the area median income? The second item I'd like to talk about is accessibility. I'm a strong supporter of universal design, but universal design is much broader than just the building. I would like to address the path of travel and safety. The development should provide accessible paths of travel. Sidewalks should be a minimum of 8 feet wide with curb ramps, but I would prefer 10 feet since many of the sidewalks include trees and plants. It seems like what we are building today are apartments on upper floors and businesses on the first floor with one elevator. And the building access with one elevator, if I understand correctly, the grocery store where Panera's is located and the apartments, the former Quality Inn, I don't recall if the former hotel has 1 or 2 elevators. The apartment building and businesses are not required to have automatic door openers, but I would like to see them installed on the apartments and businesses. My apartment building has automatic door openers on the front and back of the building. It should be the norm, not an exception to what's done, even though it's not required by law. I've also noticed that
John, I'm sorry, your 3 minutes expired, but I just want to say it was really good to hear from you. It's been a while, and it was great to have you, your voice in council chambers again. Thank you for calling in, John. Appreciate it. Our next speaker is Mike Madden. Is Mike on Zoom? No. Hi, Mike. There you are. Welcome. Yep, you're welcome to start,
Mike Madden. Thanks. I'm the director of the Pittsburgh Innovation District, so I'm professionally representing that organization, which is located at 218 Oakland Avenue. in Oakland. I'm here to show our organization support for the mixed-use zoning proposed in Oakland, and I want to add a little bit of context as to why. Professionally, I've seen our peer cities in the United States and across the world and what they're doing to build an innovation district, and the mixed-use zoning that we're talking about today would be a no-brainer in many other markets in the United States. Georgia, myself, and others, we've seen what our competition is doing in other cities, and this is something that would be gladly welcomed in a lot of other innovation districts. Zoning that brings density, building height, development opportunities, walk-to-work housing, transit access. These are all quality components of what makes an innovation district and a thriving economic center. Oakland has natural built-in advantages that we need to be supporting and building around and not preventing. Let's play offense, let's be aspirational, and let's build something that will take Oakland into the 21st century and build Pittsburgh's future economy starting today. I want to again show our support for this zoning legislation. We believe it's transformative and will bring in a new era for Oakland, and let's take advantage of it. Thank you.
Okay, Mike, thank you very much for being here. I would also like to recognize that Councilwoman Erica Strasburger has joined us via Zoom. Welcome, Councilwoman. Thank you for being here. Our next speaker is Wanda Wilson. Do we have Wanda on Zoom? Yes. Wanda, welcome. You are our next speaker.
Thanks, Councilman. Can you hear me?
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks. My name is Wanda Wilson. I'm Executive Director of Oakland Planning and Development Corporation. I live in Point Breeze. Last fall, this body introduced an ordinance that would make way for high-end market rate development in Oakland with no provision or requirements for inclusionary zoning, affordable housing requirements, or equitable development in our community. It included uses that would have caused detrimental impacts on nearby residents and nearby homeowners who live in their homes, invested their livelihoods there. All while Department of City Planning was completing a neighborhood plan process for Oakland. That plan process was ignored, as was the extensive community opposition to the bill. Mayor Gainey listened to the community concerns and saw the potential impact on equity in our community and on affordability. We want to take this opportunity to thank the mayor and his staff for his intervention this winter, in which they listened to community concerns and encouraged the sponsors of this bill to consider how important affordability and housing equity is in this neighborhood. The mayor's office also intervened in response to community concerns about proposed noxious uses. The footprint of this zone change is now smaller, and the worst of the concerning uses have been removed. For this, we are grateful. We also thank city planning staff for working collaboratively with the mayor's office to bring the proposed rezoning of Halkett more in line with the proposals advanced through the Oakland plan process. It's still not perfect by any stretch, but it's better than it was. One of Planning Commission's conditions when they acted on this legislation is that you take careful look at heights and massing of the buildings. Examine closely the context and impact on the single-family residential zones adjacent to this. Coulthard Street, adjacent to Halkett, is 15 feet below the elevation of Halkett. The height allowance of 120 to 185 feet on such a shallow residential scale parcel will have an extraordinarily negative impact on Coulthard, exacerbated by this existing topographic condition. Please consider this impact and make sure that you review accurate section drawings of this condition prior to taking action. These illustrations were not made available to Planning Commission, although they observed this as a significant issue of concern. Ensure that you review this information with a thought that could be a residential street of homeowners in your district, your constituents. The Oakland Plan and its accompanying zoning proposals are now on the Planning Commission agenda for next month. There's no longer a compelling argument to be made that this zoning change is urgent. This area is contained within the Oakland Plan zoning package. We urge Council to set this bill aside in favor of passing the proposed zoning from the Oakland Plan. There's no longer any daylight between the two proposals, and Council will do itself a favor if it avoids setting a terrible precedent by letting this bill, with its complicated history, hopscotch over the plan process.
Where was she from?
Wanda Wilson is the Executive Director of the Oakland Business or Oakland Planning and
where she
Development
works, but I want to know where she lived.
I
Did she
don't
say?
know.
Point Breeze.
Okay, I just like to try to get everyone's, try to figure out who's speaking for.
But I believe those comments were in opposition, if I understood them correctly. Mike Hyjurek. Do we have Mike on Zoom? We do not. Okay. Luciano Scioli. Mr. Scioli, are you on Zoom? Pardon me? No, we skipped over Zoe Lardis. She's number 12. I'm sorry, I did. Yes, I did. Thank you very much. Is Zoe on Zoom? Yes. Zoe, forgive me, my apologies. Welcome. And you have your 3 minutes.
Do you hear me?
Yep, we can. Thank you.
Okay. I'm Zoe Lardis. I live in central Oakland. I've been a resident here for 30 years. My husband's lived in this house for his entire life and has a business here in Oakland. My children are 5th generation Oaklanders. And I'm telling you all of this because we have a stake in what happens in Oakland. Thank you to all the council members who are considering the Oakland Crossing bill with an open mind. There are so many points to mention, there's just too many, and I will just pick a few. I agree change is needed, but this process of deciding what will happen to Oakland appears to have been made purposely confusing and complicated so as to favor one entity and not necessarily help Oakland, truly help Oakland and its residents, its current residents. You can't push us out because you want change, right? An Oakland planning process exists, and ignoring it will set a precedent for the rest of Oakland and for other neighborhoods, all right? It's been mentioned that you're going buildings to be built to 12 stories. That scale is not, it doesn't match the rest of the neighborhood, all right? The thought of mentioning grocery stores, there have been grocery stores in Oakland. They left because of business concerns, not because we couldn't support them. All right, Oakland is also already very congested. And how will adding more people to this area help if you're not changing other things? All right, also, will Walnut Capital, after they are given all these changes, what happens if they decide to sell to Pitt? They've already done that before with other properties. All right, what if it goes to some other property? If Walnut Capital sells to someone else? How will this impact the change with the agreements that have been made to Walnut Capital? All right, how about instead of changing the zoning to accommodate a large, deep-pocketed developer, we enforce current zoning as well as other city ordinances to make Oakland a truly livable neighborhood and not just change for the sake of change. Thank you.
Zoe, thank you. Appreciate your comments. Next, we do have Mike Hyjuric then on Zoom. Nope. No, we can come back just in case he joins us later. Is Mr. Scioli with us? No? Okay. We'll come back in case he does join. How about Barbara Warwick? Yes. Okay. Hi, Barbara. Welcome. Thank you for being here. You're welcome to have your 3 minutes.
Great. Thanks. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Perfect. Thanks. Yeah. So my name is Barb Warwick. I'm a resident of 4 Mile Run. And as someone who has direct experience with development projects that don't align with the needs of my community, I'm a strong proponent of the neighborhood planning process. I've been nothing but impressed with the hard work and dedication of our local city planner. And I've also seen firsthand what a critical resource the Hazelwood Neighborhood Plan has been in informing development projects right next door. In fact, that plan has been such a success that there are many of us in Greenfield who are eager for the opportunity to work with city planning on a neighborhood plan of our own. In a rapidly evolving city like Pittsburgh, neighborhood plans are an effective way for residents to play a direct role in determining how the places we live will look in the future, ensuring both room for growth as well as housing security and livability for those who've been here for generations. So when Walnut Capital worked directly with the former mayor to bypass the neighborhood planning process and enact rezoning legislation for Oakland crossings, It was nothing short of an abuse of power to benefit developers at the expense of residents and community organizations. Now, excuse me, Mayor Gainey and his team have done a wonderful job in trying to repair the damage and broken trust that was caused there by pausing the rezoning process and taking more time to review the plans, gather the public input, and advocate for current residents, especially the poorest and most vulnerable. And the 10% affordable housing commitment is definitely a win. But for City Council to move forward with a vote on this rezoning legislation before the Oakland neighborhood plan is complete, I think would be a mistake. Not only would it be a slap in the face to the residents and community groups who sacrificed so much time and energy into creating the plan, it would also set a terrible precedent of large-scale developers throwing their weight, money, and power around in order to bully through projects at the expense of local communities. Now, I'm sure that the pressure is on from Walnut Capital to deliver these zoning changes now, but for the sake of Oakland residents and smaller communities like mine across the city that don't have strong advocates like OPDC and the OCO in their corner, I'm asking that you wait for the neighborhood plan to be released so that it can effectively inform development in Oakland as it was intended. That's all from me. Thanks very much for the time.
Barbara, thank you. Appreciate your comments. Next, we have Sam Spearing. Do we have Mr. Spearing on Zoom? Yes. Great. Sam, welcome. You're our next speaker.
All right. Hi there. My name is Sam Spearing. I'm the Housing and Mobility Coordinator with Bloomfield Development Corporation, and I also live in Bloomfield. I'm speaking today to express our concerns about the precedent this legislation would set. We appreciate and commend the work the Mayor's Office and planning staff have done to better center the Oakland community's voice. However, it remains unclear to us why this legislation should be or needs to be passed at this time. Our understanding is that the long-awaited Oakland plan will be in front of the Planning Commission in June, meaning its final adoption by City Planning and City Council could follow shortly after. With a 10-year plan that has gone through an extended community process already in the pipeline, it seems counterintuitive and counterproductive to concurrently introduce this standalone legislation. The precedent of circumnavigating an ongoing planning process is concerning to us as a neighborhood organization and registered community organization in the city. Long-term planning is essential to creating the communities we envision, but it can be difficult to build community trust and buy-in to these processes. The precedent set here would only make community engagement and establishing trust more difficult. We encourage Council to think carefully about the precedent that this legislation would set for neighborhoods and planning processes around the city. Thanks for your time and consideration.
Sam, excuse me, Sam, thank you very much for being here today and for your comments. I would also like to recognize that Councilwoman Gross joined us some time ago on Zoom. She is with us. We are having a few technical difficulties. We don't see her up there, but I do want to assure the public that Councilwoman Gross is in attendance in this public hearing. Our final registered speaker is Sean Herman, if I said that correctly. Is Sean with us? Yes. He is. Thank you very much. Hi, Sean.
Hello. My name is Sean Herman. I live in North Oakland. I'm currently attending Pitt. I wanted to come and voice my support for this zoning ordinance. I think that it, like a lot of other people have mentioned, it's a great it brings us into a new age of zoning kind of that we want to be seeing I'm a part of an organization in the community called Sunrise PGH, which is a youth organization about environmental activism. And zoning in this manner with mixed use and density is one of the biggest weapons we have to fight against climate change. So it's extremely exciting to see something like this going through the city council right now. I also think that, well, it's a win that this includes affordable housing, but I also think it's understated how much, even without specifically designated affordable housing, that this increased density can have an effect on the housing market, overall lowering prices across the board, since it does bring more supply into the housing market in Oakland, which is an in-demand neighborhood in Pittsburgh. I also think it's notable that a plan like this, by increasing density and destinations in Oakland, helps work with other plans that are going on in Pittsburgh, such as the Oakland plan and the Port Authority plans with transportation within the region. I think overall this plan can help make Oakland more accessible by adding more walkable environments, and walkable as a term doesn't really cover the entire accessibility part, but I think that the community is being not organized around cars, and be having more public space for people with disabilities allows for more accessible environments. I also think that the density allows us to support more businesses like grocery stores, and that my last point that I wanted to make was just that currently in Oakland with student housing and all that, there is a concern that there are almost slum-like conditions in some parts of Oakland, and that this plan provides new housing that can help alleviate those sort of issues. I would also just like to add real quick that I think that the height allowance is not really a concern for me. I don't really see why it's much of a concern, so I'm in full support.
Sean, thank you very much. That exhausts our list of registered speakers at this time. I would like to take a moment, though, to make as a matter of public record, those that have emailed comments into City Council. Anna Marie Pasquarelli did send email offering her support. Carol Tabas also emailed offering her support of the legislation. Dan Casciato emailed in favor of the legislation, and Dave, I'm not going to pronounce this correctly, so I'll spell it, Panasiuk, also sent email in favor of Council Bill, 1906. Janet Casciato actually offered email in opposition. Kathleen Gallagher sent email in just to make comment on the legislation. Kimberly Casciato sent email to show her opposition to Bill 1906. Mary and Bernie Shapiro also emailed to say they are opposed. Matt Smith emailed to say that he's in favor. Members have those emails for their review, and those comments are all now part of the public record. I would like at this time to open it up to anybody in attendance that has not spoken who wishes to offer testimony. You'll be given 1 minute to speak. So there's no one physically in chambers who wishes to offer testimony. At this time, I will open it up to members to make comment, but at this time I'll also caution members that at times zoning legislation is a matter of quasi-judicial consideration. And so to offer comment, offering definitive support or opposition are not what we want to do today. That we are instructed to take these matters to our Wednesday Standing Committee meetings. When it does come up for open discussion, that is when we will offer our comments in terms of support or opposition. But at this time, anyone who wishes to offer any comment is certainly welcome to do so. Madam President, I'll be happy to begin with you.
I'm just going to be cautious because I know that we had discussed this with our City Council solicitor. But I'll just say that you're also not allowed to say in writing or other places that you're supportive or not supportive at this time. But I want to thank you for the work that you're doing. I know that as a longtime resident of Oakland, my family, my mother just moved out of there at 98 2 years ago. She's 100 now. It's a community that, you just love it. It's the heart of Pittsburgh. And so I just want to say that, I appreciate watching you trying to come to a great compromise and for the residents, making sure that you were trying to do what's right for the community, but making sure that you heard all sides and that you realize that there's not just two sides, there's lots of sides. And so I just want to thank you for that. Although my husband and I drove through Oakland yesterday, and I think he was going down memory lane the whole way. So it's a place that you might move from, but you never leave. So
Good. That's such a great way to say it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So thank you for your work on it.
Yeah, thank you. Councilman Lavelle?
I'll simply thank everyone who has been continuously sending us comment into our offices via email, those who have provided comment who have called in and expressed their concerns and everyone who came here today, as well as those who took the, well, at least for me, would be painstaking time to try to put together a 3D legend. So thank you all. And thank you, Councilman, for your leadership.
Yeah, thank you, Councilman. Councilman Wilson?
Yeah, thank you, Councilman, for your leadership. Thank all speakers. I also definitely appreciate the, now I'm interested in the technology that was used to create the model. But I just want to thank everyone and looking forward to the discussion at the table.
Thank you. Councilwoman Strasburger, do you wish to register a comment?
I have no comment at this time. Thank you. Thanks to everyone for their voices.
Thank you. And Councilwoman Gross, good afternoon. Are you with us still?
I still am, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much. Also, I want to thank everyone for coming out, and I'll reserve my comments.
Thank you. Excuse me. I would like to say, to sort of amplify Councilwoman, Council President Kell Smith's remarks, there is only one Oakland, and it is this utterly amazing community that is so diverse in so many ways. I especially liked your comment, you may leave Oakland. How did you say you may leave? You may move, but you never leave it.
Your heart stays. Yeah,
yeah, it just does. I have the fondest of memories of Oakland, and my father having worked for Isley's when Isley's was still on the Forbes Avenue across from Gus Miller's, the comic book store. Gus Miller. Yeah, we used to hang out there as kids. It is an utterly amazing neighborhood in every way, and all of its complexities and opportunities and difficulties. This has been a very impassioned argument on many sides, and I can appreciate everyone that's come in to offer their thought and diligence and opinion, and so I don't want that to go unrecognized or unappreciated, that you take the time to be passionate. You take the time to be passionate about your neighborhood, and I thoroughly enjoy your passion and appreciate it. So we will take this under consideration. I know there has been some requests for us to come into Oakland and hold a meeting in Oakland. I would like to coordinate that and come over, and for those that might not have been able to join.
Councilman, you're on mute.
I apologize. Thank you.
All those comments, they were great.
No, it went on mute halfway through. We heard most of it.
Okay, good. Thank you. Anyway, I won't belabor. I truly appreciate all of you being here and your passion for your neighborhood. It's greatly appreciated. And we will then again, of course, get this on our standing committee agenda eventually and to take it under consideration. But I would like to come over, nothing formalized. I'm not offering a public hearing in Oakland, but to come over and make certain that we're able to meet with people that were not able to be here with us today. Okay? With that, may I have a motion to adjourn the public hearing then?
So move.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned.